Welcome to Meeting Success, the podcast for the meetings, events, and entertainment industry. I'm Coach Pete Sackel, business and productivity coach and 30-year event production veteran. And I'm going back to my roots to reconnect with top leaders and entrepreneurs to uncover valuable insights on business and mindset. And no doubt, you'll hear some entertaining stories along the way from a colorful cast of characters.
Go out and make others feel important.
Every week, you will in fact be meeting success. Now, the stage is set, it's showtime. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. You're in for a real treat today. I'm excited. This gentleman sitting next to me is a legend. If you are in the special events industry, especially here in the Central Florida area, you probably know this man. Gene Columbus, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me.
It is my honor. It's for you to come in and share your incredible insights, amazing stories. I'm humbled. So thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. It is so good to see you.
You too. Yeah, I was happy that you still recognized me in the parking lot there.
Well, you recognize me.
You haven't changed at all. I must say, you look great. You really do. It's all that clean living, I think, right? No, I'm gonna really get out of the way as much as possible and let you talk. You're a great storyteller, but I just have to run through some of your accomplishments and your background here, and I'm gonna have to read this because there's a lot to it here, Gene. You started your career in theater and performance and motion pictures, television, musical theater. Then you were at Disney for 38 years, which is incredible in the entertainment industry. Saw many changes, I'm sure, throughout the years there. 11 years as the executive director at the Orlando Repertory Theater. Adjunct professor at the UCF Conservatory Theater for 12 years. Taught stage management, theater management, as well as the careers class at Rosen College of Hospitality Management. Literally wrote the book on working in the events industry, the book called The Complete Guide to Careers and Special Events. I would definitely recommend you pick that up. If you any interest at all in the special events industry, that's a great read. And recently published, which we're gonna dive into a little bit here, is Leadership Lessons Learned Being Next to Goofy. And well, things have come full circle, right? Now you're next to Goofy
really
again.
Here, right? And I'll confess that I'm a new grandfather, and I will say I've been meaning to write this book. And with my baby granddaughter for her first birthday, I wrote my book.
Really?
And it's dedicated for Grace. But she doesn't mind if anybody else reads it.
Oh, that's nice. It's nice to share.
The goal was to capture what I went through in my career, all the wonderful opportunities, but also the book puts names in there.
Yeah.
I name lots of people. It's not a phone book,
right?
But it feels like maybe sometimes. But there are so many people at Disney that had such a huge impact. They were like bricks in the castle.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you ran to jump into a little bit. Just to finish up on that, I'm sorry. Gene is also a sought-after motivational speaker on leadership, career management, Disney history and heritage, and a career coach with an emphasis in job interviewing skills. So, I mean, it's exhausting just reading this list. But again, I'm gonna, we're gonna get into the new book and everything. I first wanted to ask you about, I found that the path, the road to Disney, to working at Disney, is paved with so many interesting stories. How did you find your way to the happiest place on earth?
Well, I will say that in my performing career is probably the impact of the first job I got in motion pictures. In fact, I was rejected because I wasn't a member of the union. But Disney, the casting people, said I had all the skills necessary to work in the film industry. But because I wasn't in the union, I wasn't even able to go to auditions. Well, I snuck in. I snuck into an audition.
There's always a good story about people starting in entertainment.
Oh, well, it was, I was nervous and all, but the audition was really exciting. And I will say, Barbara Lodge, the prettiest girl in the whole wide world for a 14-year-old, lured me into dance because she needed a dance partner. And I loved gymnastics and all of that, so I was strong and I could lift her, and so it was terrific. But it led me to getting scholarships and a whole group of beautiful young girls that I could dance with, and it was terrific. So I was extremely well trained. I did Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, Nutcracker, all of those great ballets. So the audition for Babes in Toyland, at Disney, that was the motion picture that I snuck in for the audition, and I got selected. However, they called me and pulled me off the call because I wasn't a member of the union.
Yeah, they found out.
Then they called me back and said, "We have another job. You don't need any talent for this. It's a stand-in. It's like a human mannequin for Tommy Kurt in the Misadventures of Merlin Jones."
Merlin Jones, yeah, I saw that. You just posted something about that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I would stand there. The thing they didn't tell you when they said you just stand there, they also should have informed me that you sweat. These clean lights and.
Welcome to the showbiz.
It was quite an adventure, but I didn't know any. There was nobody to tell me what to do or guide me. Right. But at the Disney studios, they always offered coffee, refreshments for the crew. As soon as everything was set, favorite guys, all the lights would go out and everybody would run over and get coffee. I was not very important, so I was the stand-in.
You weren't allowed
so I waited, and I would get in line at the end and get a coffee.
Coffee was cold by the time you got there.
Stand next to people trying to absorb information. It was the fourth day on that motion picture, and this leads up to where my start with Disney was. Fourth day, I get in line, maybe 3 people in there. I get my coffee. Someone gets in line behind me. I get my coffee. I'm putting cream and sugar in, and I look over my shoulder, and the guy that got in line behind me extends his hand and says, "Hello, I'm Walt Disney." Yeah. I'm shaking hands with Walt Disney.
You're like, who?
And then Walt Disney starts asking questions about me, where I was from, what I was going to do. I called him Mr. Disney. He says, "No, call me Walt." Yeah. That was somewhat of a line I found extremely difficult to step over.
Well, that's interesting, though, because, I mean, Disney is such a first-name company.
And everybody in the whole world knew who
part of the culture, yeah.
But why is it important? The man whose name was on the gate that I entered that morning did not presume that I would know who he was.
Right.
He wanted to know about me. As I say, the most unimportant person on that soundstage. So I say, Walt Disney made me feel important. And I ask people, how do you make people feel? Do you make them feel important, valued? And that's where my first step towards Disney happened, because someone at Disney's casting went out of their way to help this young guy live a dream to work in motion pictures. And then the guy whose studio it was reached out to me.
Yeah.
That spoke volumes.
Yeah.
So from there, it was trying to transition from performer to choreographer. And I sent my resume to Disneyland and just hoping I could I could get something. I worked one summer as a cast member at Disneyland, so it was probably 12 weeks of commuting from Los Angeles down to Anaheim. But I loved that theme park, the magic of it, and our my shift was such that it could go into the early evening and see the transformation of this daytime park into this absolutely magical place.
Yeah.
Okay, it infused pixie dust.
Yeah.
So that was the big moment of, I want to work for a company that takes care of their people.
Yeah. It's interesting when you tell that story. I mean, the first thing that as you were talking about the path and everything, it kind of occurred to me that you didn't really have a mentor. You were doing this basically on your own, like making your own breaks. I mean, obviously, it was maybe a lucky chance that you happened to be in line in front of Walt Disney, and that could be a break. But still, you really made that yourself, and then you got in there and you started maybe looking for mentors at that point. But just you really started this journey kind of by yourself, and which is interesting to me because you become such a mentor to so many people but you didn't really sound like have that maybe necessarily for yourself in the beginning.
That's probably what was a good thing, in that I realized the importance of helping hands along the way.
Yeah.
And I was committed to doing that. I was a Hollywood performer, dancer, singer, actor, and the audition process. I learned so much from that because there did not seem to be a sense of real respect. You were just another person. And the audition, you would go through and you'd try so hard to do your very, very best, and then someone would come up to you and say, "Thank you."
Right.
Which was not thank you. That means
goodbye.
You're not it. You're out of here.
Right.
And it was my commitment when I came to Disney, particularly in the interviewing process, that everybody should receive respect, encouragement, and never leave without some advice.
Yeah.
Some guidance, assisting in that very beginning, if they didn't have a mentor, a coach, or a counselor, to provide that for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up, and just again, I'm going to leave the storytelling to you, but I had to tell this real quick story. The first time we met, it was in 1989, and I was down from New York interviewing for a job at Disney, a management job in Disney Entertainment. And back then it was a 2-day process with 13 people all over property, off property. I mean, this was before GPS and all that and everything. And I was like really, I think it was like 25 years old, something like that. And I looked at the interview schedule. You were the first interview I had. Those 13 people, the 2 days. You were the first one. And I mean, I was nervous. I really wanted, this job. I wanted to come work at Disney. And you just I was so fortunate that you were the first to interview, because I mean, you totally broke the ice. You made me feel comfortable, just like you're saying. You made me feel, valued and respected. And I tell people this story because you knew us from New York, so you asked me the question, you haven't been to see a show or anything on Broadway? And I said, yeah, I just saw Evita not too long ago. And you said, oh, who did the music for that? And I didn't know. I was like, I don't know. And later on, like months later or whatever, I was thinking about it. It's like, he knew that was Andrew Lloyd Webber did the music for Evita, but you never felt like the need to say it, like to make me feel like, I was less because I didn't know, and you never even said that you knew who it was. You were just like, oh, okay, and went on. And I tell people that story because I think it's that humility in, the interview process. And again, it's like you said about Walt Disney in Line, that ability to just make someone feel like they're the most important person right then and there at that point. So, and I totally believe that without that fortune on my part, I would have gotten the job at Disney.
Well, there's a part. It's okay not to know.
Yeah.
And so I would tell people it's okay not to know, but then the step is to find out.
Yep.
To learn.
I remember that. We said that a lot at when I was at Disney. I remember hearing that a lot.
It was a way of helping people that in the interview, because for me it was like a Bunsen burner. I could keep raising the temperature to see where they would go, but and I could bring them to a threshold, because I did want to find something they couldn't answer and just kind of make it go, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, because you didn't fake it.
Right.
And
that's a great point.
That's the biggest.
Yeah, and to that point again too, I remember that technique you had where you would kind of lay out a scenario. And I remember I got the band at Pleasure Island. I think
The three guys in the parking lot.
Yeah, they're like drinking or something. And it was great though, because you would go down through the scenario and I didn't know where you were going with it or whatever. And then you just stop and say, what would you do? And it was just perfect. I mean, it was like you said, like you knew like kind of where to take the conversation and kind of, like you say, you kind of raise the temperature a little bit and see where that comes out. I think that was an awesome technique.
Well, the overall approach is that when you're going to be bringing in a manager, what is a manager? A manager is someone that gets people to do things they wouldn't otherwise do, or they get them to do what they're doing and they get them to do it better.
Right.
That's a manager.
Right.
But at times there's confrontation. And how unfair is it to deal with a candidate that you might hire, but they have a real issue with confrontation? You put them out there. That's not good for that individual, nor is it good for the company or the person that's causing.
You're interacting with, yeah.
So my whole technique was to try to create a situation in which there was conflict, and how do they deal with conflict, and try to not put them in a situation and then give them guidance.
Right.
And so often in the interview process, probably one of the gene-isms, they call them, they're gene gems now in my books and everything, the gene gems, it's that if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
And it's don't put people in a situation where they could possibly lose.
Right.
And not be successful.
Yeah.
Because the goal as this program, it's setting people up for success.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's such a kind of a fine line I found too. I mean, it definitely. I mean, I believe the whole thing about like if you're trying new things, you're going to fail. I mean, it's got to be that way. I mean, you look like any great progress or invention or anything. I mean, look at Elon Musk. I mean, how many rockets explode? I mean, you got to try. If you never try, then you're not going to push the envelope. But it's always kind of, and I find this with parenting too. It's real tough to like that point where you're motivating, but not kind of pushing. Like you're encouraging, but you still want to set a higher bar, for somebody to excel, because it shows respect. It shows, okay, I believe in you. You can do this, even if you don't believe it yourself right now. So there's that balance.
It creates ownership.
Right.
Because then you're working with them. They own it. They own the success. They own the failure. But the goal is to take any kind of mistake or things that didn't work out as a learning opportunity.
Right.
So that we continue to get better.
Yep.
And your point is that you don't push your people into harm's way. You lead them past the harm. You guide them and assist them, but you let them do it.
Right.
You gotta let
them fail. Right. Let them take the chance.
Yeah, well, there's always a safety net.
Right. Yeah, within the guidelines. So that's why it's important to set up the guidelines to give them the information so they're not failing, completely.
Yeah,
but
there's many checkpoints, but if they're going down the wrong path, there's always an opportunity to redirect. But there's a learning opportunity from that, and it's that old thing about Disney management is you praise in public and correct in private.
Right.
And and it's humiliating to lose your temper out in public where everybody, and there are too many people in the world that do that now.
Yeah.
It speaks loudly about the person that made the mistake, but I think it amplifies even more the person that is
delivering
that is screaming out.
Yeah, it always amazes me the people that think they kind of need to be like that, kind of a leader. Where it's, and I've gotten bad advice like that from supervisors in the past, and it's unfortunate it has to be that way. And again, I think it goes back to the respect that you're giving the other people and the other person and that you're leading. So and like you say, I think it speaks volumes for the leader as well.
Yes. And that's the leader. The leader is out front, making sure it's safe for others to follow.
Right. Yep.
I do a whole presentation last week. I was doing a presentation to a wonderful group, and the discussion in that leadership and the kind of questions that would come up for leaders that say, I am unable to cope with my group because I have two people that are continuously at each other, and each wants me to take their side. How do you lead these people?
Right.
And boy, was that a lively discussion. I've asked others, and it was, if it comes down to it, put them in a room, tell them to fight it out. And I said, let me just ask.
That's one way.
If you take two dogs and you put them in a cage and say, let them fight it out, they both come out injured.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not going to end well for anybody.
But as the leader, starting with finding one thing that they both agree on, and if they can't come up with anything, you come up with something. We're going to go out for ice cream. We are going to talk only about ice cream. How delicious it is.
Right.
And we're going to focus on that so that we can all three of us agree it is the most delicious ice cream we've ever had.
So it's finding that common ground.
One thing. Then you say, if we can agree on that, we can find ways to agree on others.
Right.
And that leads you through conflict resolution about trying to impose their opinion on the other, who is the irresistible force, the immovable object.
Right.
One has to find collaboration or compromise. And in some cases, compromise means you both have to give up something.
Right.
Or you work together and find something. It takes a whole lot more time, but it gives you the opportunity to perhaps come up with something better for both of you.
Right. And to that point, conflict doesn't always have to be a bad thing, right? There's different ideas. People are different. The way they communicate.
It's great. It's like sandpaper.
Right.
But the sandpaper makes things smooth.
Right.
And if everybody agreed on everything, you only need one person then.
Right. Exactly.
So it's the ideas rubbing against each other, and if they're not done personally, but it's the respect of their idea and respect of the person. I'll give you that. That's a great idea. However, have you considered?
Right.
Is the working the issue, and it's not personal to the individual.
Right. It's kind of like in that case, being a manager is almost like being a marriage counselor. It's two different maybe views, two different ways of doing things. But I think too, like a good leader can kind of eliminate some of that conflict, bad conflict. I'll call it good and bad conflict, because again, there's a lot, conflict is good in a lot of ways. But a good leader, I think one of the goals, or one of the real purposes of a leader is to set the vision. What are we really trying to accomplish? What's the mission?
Absolutely.
And keeping that crystal clear, so that's what because then that's what you can get everybody to focus on, right?
Yeah.
That vision. And I think Disney did that, really well. Obviously, just the vision was taking care of the guest, right? I mean, that was, and different ways to do that, maybe, and different ideas, and that's how the organization grows.
One of the exercises that I do is with a group, just as I take Post-its and I say, okay, you're going to go to the Magic Kingdom. What do you expect to see? Parades and fireworks and characters, and they put it on that, and then we put that up and say, okay, what we've done is a vision of the expectations of what you're going to see in the happiest place on earth.
Right.
Now, I want you to do the same kind of exercise, but the perfect boss. What are the characteristics of the individual that you would like in your boss? And they wrote those: compassionate, good listener, supportive, all of these things. And we put that up and we say, now that's the vision. That is what we are striving to become, the perfect boss for others. Because the organizational chart, and I probably said this in the interview, the most successful organizations in the world take that pyramid with a boss on top, they turn it upside down, and they make number one those people that touch their customer, their client, their guests, number one, and everything going down is supporting the overall goal of taking care of your guest.
One guest at a time. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and that is definitely something that's stuck with me from working with Disney, to really focus on the guest. I mean, just calling them the guest. I mean, that was eye-opening to me. Not a customer, it's the guest. And it's it amazes me to see organizations that don't get that. You'll see, like, behind the scenes, a manager. I won't even say a leader, because I don't even believe there's such thing as a bad leader, either a leader or not. But you'll see managers that, like, behind the scenes are, berating their employees, talking down to them and everything. And then they expect them to go out and be nice to the...
I want you to go out there, and I want you to make sure these people have a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No, it is treat your people the way you want them to treat your guests.
Yes. Yep. It's
and I think
simple as
hopefully at Disney, that was, and I will say, I flash in my mind about, I won't use his name now, but there was an issue with the kids of the kingdom, and he was upset, and he went through, and he was yelling, and he knew he was wrong, so he made his way back up to my office, and he went through and he said, and I did this and I said that to them, and I said, hold
Gene,
on,
how do I fix this?
Hold on. So I stood up from my desk and I walked around. I said, I want you to sit where I am and pretend you're me. What do you think I would say to you? And he sat there for a minute and he said, you should go and apologize. And I said, wonderful lesson learned. And he went and he did apologize, and he made them feel good. And the fact that he had made the effort to turn that around, and came and he was very emotional, and he said that they all came to the conclusion that all of them, not just him, they all cared about doing a good show.
Right.
They all had had much invested in that.
Right.
But they appreciated then. The reason he lost is he wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah. You see that with great leaders. I mean, it's big in sports. You see it all the time. Like people, are very competitive, and they get on their players and everything. And there's, it's just passion. You can see that. And I think, like you say, your team members appreciate your passion. They need to see you have passion. So you can't just be like a robot and, never lose your temper. And I think it's interesting because to me, I always see the opportunity as a leader. If I do something wrong, there's an opportunity for me to go back and apologize for that. And that just heightens in the eyes of, the team members, that even raises their view of you because of vulnerability.
But the important part was you showed your passion.
Right.
You were honest
right.
about that. And
and you didn't get personal, maybe, to that person. It was clear that you just wanted to do things right.
Well, and rather than a body bag, you've set in motion of a stronger unit, and these people now understand your passion, and they're much more willing to follow
right.
and emulate your behavior. Because we all, to suggest that I've never reacted, we are all human.
I've never seen you get mad, actually. I have to say that's
Control yourself, you control the situation. I learned that very early on in my career, but I will tell you, in my early days, it was run into the wall
right.
and going, that didn't help. But I did learn that by stepping back, using it as a learning experience for myself, but also to develop how to not take it quite so personally.
Right.
Focus on the problem more than the person, so that you address and you're fixing problems.
Right.
Not avoiding problems, certainly never making problems. When you go to work, you go there to solve problems.
First, do no harm. Right?
Yes. So it's and that goes back to the hiring process.
Right.
Hire really great people, because they're going to solve amazing problems that would otherwise happen if they weren't there.
Right. And it's not just hiring people that are going to think the same way as you or do this, act the same way as you. I mean, you want that dynamic.
Well,
as well.
the dynamics, and it's team dynamics, getting all the same cookie cutter type, getting the diversity, and that also helps in developing all of their leadership. One of the issues, because I like to get ambitious people with potential.
Yeah.
You had great potential.
I had great potential. What happened? I appreciate that.
But potential, I hired potential. I always, he's overqualified. Consider that. They want to come to work for Disney.
Right.
Yes, you say overqualified. I say they're promotable.
Yeah.
And we brought in so many people that had great qualifications and cream rise to the top.
Mm-hmm.
I just think about the fact that after about 15 years or so at Disney, from that point on, I always reported to somebody I had hired.
That's a great compliment, though. I mean, that's a great indication, right, that you made the right hires.
Well, you hire people not for what they'll do for you personally, but what they'll do for the company.
Yeah. Again, it's that higher ideal, the vision that you're there to help.
Ego can be a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But ego also is important to have, because along with that is pride and a dedication and a willingness to, there's very little traffic when you're going the extra mile.
Right. Yeah.
So finding people that go the extra mile.
Yep.
Put a little more effort into it. Each time has got to be better than the time before.
And it's amazing because it you see it a lot that, and I said, it doesn't really take that much. It's not like you have to, make big, improvements or what. I mean, just a little bit more.
And that's the difference between good and great.
Right.
Small,
consistent,
difference.
Yep.
But that little extra push.
That's when you make that breakthrough.
You get that great result.
Yep.
And just maintaining what you're doing. All right, people maintain their job, but perpetuating it. Mm-hmm. Let it gain more energy. Right. Let it gain more notoriety. Get excited about it so that people see what's happening, and your team get excited about it.
Right.
So
yeah. I want to go back to the book again. Your new book on leadership, and you have your leadership lessons learned.
We can take
Ian next to Goofy.
Written for Grace, my granddaughter, and it was published on her first birthday. And when my son told me I was going to be a grandfather for the first time, I was so excited. But I wanted her to know about all of my work and things awesome. that my son wouldn't really know. But also in this book, there's a number of people named that was special, that they impact me. Their behavior was to be emulated. So you take from leaders what is good, but you also learn from those things that are not so good. From when you observe somebody, the biggest thing I got hung up on was some people became the master of the non-decision.
Mm-hmm. Just pass the buck.
They just didn't want to make a decision, so they would push it this way or that way. I felt it was important that we really invest the time to plan your work your plan. Mm-hmm. And you fail to plan to fail. Right. It's the plan, but once you have it in place and you've done all the calculations and you've got everything set, it's time to move forward. But what happens if you lose one of the most valuable parts of doing events? Time. Mm-hmm. Time, scope, budget. And you've lived in that world, so you know exactly. Yeah. So with enough time, you can pretty much solve some of the scope problems or budget problems.
Right.
But if you don't have enough time, you can throw a lot of money at it, but it's no guarantee it's going to work. Yep. And with not enough time, the scope might never quite be reached.
Right. Hey everybody, it's Coach Pete. I hope you're enjoying the show today. A lot of people will know that I am a business and productivity coach, and I'd like to do something special for our viewers and listeners of the show, and that is to offer a free 45-minute coaching session with me personally. So if that's something you'd like to take advantage of, go ahead and click on the link below. You can also go to my website. It's sackelpg.com, and go ahead and book your free 45-minute coaching session. I would love to hear your story. I'm looking forward to talking to you and getting to know you. So go ahead and click on the link, and now let's get back to the show. And it's interesting, a book on leadership, but I've seen you call it a love story, and I can tell like your demeanor kind of just changed, like you lit up, talking about the book and your granddaughter, of course. But what do you mean by it's a love story?
It's a love story. It's I was so blessed to have I've had a just amazing career. I always tried to do my best, but I would tell people, don't expect to find job satisfaction unless you bring it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever the role is, fall in love with it.
Yeah.
Fall in love with it. And my love story is, I still, after all these years, am still considered the Disney guy.
Yeah.
This Disney guy, because passion for the product, passion for the people, passion for the guest, passion for the experience. I still go out. I still enjoy my experiences going out there. And it's, well, in the old days. Well, for our guests coming today, whatever they're experiencing,
Right.
this is going to be their memories 20, 30, 40 years from now.
Right.
My experiences go back all the way back into the 1960s, when I was a young person. My first visit to Disneyland was amazing.
Yeah.
That was one of the first things when I moved to Los Angeles. That was one of my top things. I watched The Wonderful World of Disney on TV, and I was enamored with Disneyland.
Yeah.
And going there for the first time and getting my e-coupons and A, B, and C, just walking around, and that's where attention to detail
Right.
was so evident. Theme, brand, all of those things, and that's kind of the history and heritage that we all learned when I went through traditions in the first time or second time. It was all about the history.
Yeah.
We don't own it. The world does.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have set up expectations, but whoever is currently the custodian of that must provide that experience that people
Carry the
have
torch.
heard and endorsed. Right. So when I go to the park, it is not unusual that I will, if I see custodians
Picking up garbage or something.
go up, and I would talk to them, and I share with them about. First, I find out about them, what their dreams, aspirations are, and how they feel about it, and I will say the vast majority of them are just as gung ho as the cast members were in my early days.
That's awesome.
So it's the company is so much bigger. It's big and probably much more difficult to keep it rolling in the same right direction, or in the same direction because of all the forces there are. Back in our day, we had a vision. We knew what we had to do, and we did it.
Yeah.
And we would just the celebrate. I used to write memos of congratulations. I had a wonderful secretary, and she was so fast. So I say, this is but I want to customize the opener and the closing and about our event. And one of the most moving things for me, one of our colleagues had a baby, and so I stopped by. I went in their house, and I saw that memo framed on the wall.
Oh, there you go.
Little tiny acts.
Yeah, it just meant so much. Yeah.
Means so much. But in that we were the custodians of the time.
Yeah.
back then, Pete, we had to do so much with so little.
Yeah.
When you think about it, and we look now at the technology,
Right.
it's mind-boggling to
Yeah.
see. But, jaw-dropping things. But for me, there's still the when you wish upon a star and you see little kids looking. I remember my last day in the Magic Kingdom. I was going to resorts. That day was difficult for me because I was the custodian. I was holding on to. I was the guard at the gate of the Magic Kingdom, and the corporate raiders had come in the 1980s. My last day, I went to see rope drop, and I stood by the castle and I watched on the bridge them drop the rope, and everybody's running in different directions. But there was a mother and daughter, a cute little girl, and mom dressed alike, and they run to the castle, and mom kneels down next to the daughter, and oblivious that I'm there. And she says to her daughter, "When I was a little girl, I said when I grow up, I'm going to live in a castle just like that." And they looked at it, and the little girl turns to mom, "Mommy, when I grow up, I'm going to live in a castle just like that." Mm. The passing of the traditions. Mm-hmm. And that kind of signaled to me it was time for me to move on so someone else could take and add their passion, their ideas, their creativity to the Magic Kingdom. And that's where I went for the most fun place ever when I did convention, resort entertainment, doing events. That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was really the start of events and everything too, as far as especially in Central Florida. I mean, that time period, like when the Swan and Dolphin was built and everything, and things have changed so much. So, Gene, after 38 years at Disney, almost 4 decades, what's like the most memorable experience that you had from working there?
Well, of course, you can imagine in 38 years, there's many, many, many. However, one stands out to me that above all others, and that was now 25 years ago, I was producing 25th anniversary of Special Olympics, American Garden stage. Originally, we had a big budget, and we were planning all these things, but because it was going to be on television, but television kind of dried up, and so we were consolidating in budgets and all. And I'm going to say that the Disney management team, they found ways in which to absorb costs so that we could do this really great event at the American Garden stage with the All-American College Orchestra and the world dancers and John Charles but it was great. I budget-wise, I had to get a cauldron and a torch and all of that. It all came together. It was wonderful. Now, as we were approaching that wonderful night, someone had to carry the torch. So they did a drawing, and they picked an athlete that was going to do it. So I just said, whoever is selected, just bring him to the top of the top of the American Garden stage, and we'll explain how to walk down and light the cauldron. Great. So about half hour before the performance is starting, a young man is brought to us in a wheelchair. So he's by his father. And I said to his father, this is an event for you to watch. Why don't you go sit down? We'll take care of it. We'll have one of our people get him down. And so father was great with that. Well, we did the opening, and it was powerful. The music was so, just the young man, give him the torch, I'm going to walk. Okay, of course you are. He gets out of his wheelchair and he goes to the top of the aisle. The lights flash to him. The audience erupts in applause. And he starts down the aisle, which is angled. And it becomes more and more apparent. He's not going to make it. Out of nowhere, his father rushes, doesn't take the torch, but takes him and helps him to the stage and helps him light the cauldron and puts him in his space to stand as the audience is overwhelmed with emotion. Then the father steps back out of the limelight so his son can receive all of this. Well, Sargent and Una Schreiber were hosting this, then said, that is what we do. We do not take and do it for them. We help them. And it's so illustrated what we at Disney would do in our community.
Yeah.
We don't do it for them. For all these nonprofits, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all of these United Cerebral Palsy, the Edgewood Children's Ranch, House of Hope, all of these organizations are helped. Disney doesn't do it for them, but supports them. When on that stage, Sargent and Una Schreiber then invited all the parents, totally unprepared for all of the parents of the athletes were invited to come on stage. And it was the longest standing ovation I have ever experienced. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. And even at this moment, I still get goosebumps thinking back on that magic, most memorable Disney experience.
And just to be a part of that, it's like, and I can see it, and it's like, you should have warned me that was going to get like that, because I get very emotional about things like that, and that's an amazing story, and you're an amazing storyteller, and the fact that that's the most memorable thing for your career, your incredible career. I mean, it says a lot about you as well. So, unfortunately, I knew this was going to go by really quick, and so many other things I want to talk to you about, and we'll have to have you back again. And I just wanted to kind of end up, we're going to try something a little different here. We're going to put you on the hot seat a little bit. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the magic of Disney and all that. So in 30 seconds or less, say maybe like we're on Shark Tank, right? We're pitching this whole concept but can you like wrap up and explain like what really creates that Disney magic? What's the key? Like what somebody listening, they're probably not running Disney, but they're running maybe a company, and they want to kind of bring some of that, that magic into their organization. What's like a 30-second explanation of how that Disney magic is created?
The magic is created by surprising and delighting your guests. They come and they see something, and how did that happen? It must be magic. So that would be my response.
Yeah, that's a great response. And fill in, guests with, whether it's client, customer.
Oh, yes, surprise, delight. Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. Can you believe they did that?
Right.
That is so typical of watching a guest experiencing that. I was on Main Street the first time the Main Street Electrical Parade went down the street, and I will tell you, that was surprise and delight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Again, just thank you so much, for your time, for your passion. I mean, obviously you're so passionate about Disney, but also just about, I think, helping people, whether it's leading people, mentoring people. I wanted to ask you about that, about legacy. What do you hope that people kind of think of when they hear the name Gene Columbus?
Oh, it's hard because I think I felt like I was always just trying to do my job and do it the best I could. I've received incredible amount of awards and lovely things that people sent me, and that for the most part, I will say I was surprised and delighted by that. But the legacy is probably most it was always doing what is best for the organization. When I went to the Orlando Repertory Theater, always doing what's best for the rep. All through my career, I knew the day would come when I would have to step aside and let the next generation step forward. My time came, and I graciously stepped aside. And the people that stepped into those roles, they're the ones that seem to honor me the most.
Yeah, I love that. And of course, I was, expecting a humble response, and that certainly was. I mean, and I can say, I've never heard anybody, speak anything but, high praises for you. And again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories and insights. And you can find Gene at genecolumbus.com, right?
Yes.
On Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, LinkedIn. Get the book. It's on
Yes.
Amazon.
Lots of stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's
The
and
story
obviously
of meeting Walt.
great storyteller. Yeah, so I mean, you're going to get a lot out of that book. I mean, it's awesome book there. So again, it's on Amazon. It's at your website. You can get it there as well. And Gene, just again, just thank you so much, like you say, for your time, your passion, and your stories. And not just today, but for the past 40 plus years, you've certainly made you've made the world a better place. And I think that's it's probably the biggest compliment that I can think of to give you. And it's just it sounds simplistic, but I really believe that. And again, I just appreciate you so much. You're a good man.
Thank you, and to all of your audience, go out and make others feel important. It'll make you important in their lives. Pete, you've made me feel very important.
And thank you, Gene.
Putting me in front of this microphone and asking me to share my stories. I thank you.
I thank you. You are important. Thank you, my friend. So thank you also to Josh Pies of C47 Digital Studios, home of this podcast. Please also check out Josh's podcast, Bootstrapped Unicorns is the name of that one. And thank you to our engineer, Tony Golden. We call him Golden Tony. And of course, thank you to our listeners and viewers. And I hope you enjoyed meeting our guest today. I hope you enjoyed meeting success. This is Coach Pete saying bye for now.